In this one city, the faiths of over half the world find their roots. The question is, how were Muslims able to build their mosques on the most controversial holy site on earth? What if I told you there's one city where heaven met earth, where prophets walked, and where every stone still whispers a secret from the past? Welcome to Jerusalem, a city unlike any other. Jerusalem isn't just a place on a map, it's a heartbeat, a crossroads of destiny, conflict, and divine connection. For thousands of years, it's drawn believers, conquerors, and dreamers alike. Because here, in this ancient city, the three great Abrahamic religions meet, and each one claims a piece of its soul. For the Jewish people, Jerusalem is everything. The spiritual center of the world, the city God promised. Every synagogue across the globe faces her. Every prayer whispers her name. To Jews, this is not just holy ground, it's home. Even after centuries of exile, they never stopped looking east. To Christians, Jerusalem is sacred soil, the place where Jesus walked, taught, was betrayed, crucified, and where, against all odds, he rose again. It's not just history, it's the heart of salvation. And for Muslims, Jerusalem holds a miracle. Before Mecca became the Qibla, this direction was the traditional one for prayer. And it's here at Al-Aqsa Mosque that a journey beyond imagination began. A journey called Miraj. The Quran says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi laylan min al-masjidil haram ila al-masjidil aqsa alladhi barakna hawlahu linuriyahu min ayatina innahu huwa as-sami'ul basir. That night wasn't ordinary. The Prophet Mohammad traveled not just across deserts, but into the very heavens, to witness signs beyond human comprehension. And where did that mirage begin? Right here, in Jerusalem. In this one city, the faiths of over half the world find their roots. Jews pray at its walls. Christians walk in the footsteps of their Savior. Muslims stand in reverence where their prophet once stood. But here's the paradox. This unity of reverence has often sparked centuries of conflict. The question is, how were Muslims able to build their mosques on the most controversial holy site on earth? That's where the story deepens. Jerusalem, not just sacred, but ancient, where saints walked and where kings ruled with the wisdom of heaven. David, Solomon, Moses, Jesus, and Prophet Mohammed. Each of them left more than footprints. They left a legacy carved into stone and soul. 4,000 years ago, long before skyscrapers and satellites, Jerusalem was already alive. It became the throne of King David, warrior, poet, and prophet. He didn't just rule from here, he reshaped it. And beneath today's streets, fragments of that golden era still lie hidden. Look closer. Under the surface of Jerusalem run tunnels and channels, ancient engineering marvels carved by hands long turned to dust. Water systems, stone fortresses, underground passageways, each one tells a story. The Hebrew texts speak of a bold conquest. Prophet David, leading his people, overcame the Jebusites. But this wasn't just a military victory. It was a turning point in history. David made Jerusalem his capital. David ruled for 40 years, and as he aged, one dream burned in his heart: to build a house for God. However, the task would fall to his son, Solomon. and what he built would shake the world. On Mount Moriah, Solomon raised the first temple, massive, majestic, and filled with mystery. It wasn't just a building, it was where heaven met earth. Why that mountain? Because that's where Abraham once stood, ready to offer his son in submission to God, a test of faith that would echo forever. At the heart of the temple rests something even more powerful, the Ark of the Covenant, a golden chest lined with mystery, guarded by priests, revered by all. Inside, the stone tablets etched with the 10 Commandments, the rod of Aaron, a symbol of divine authority. In 586 before Christ, the skies over Jerusalem darkened. The mighty Babylonian Empire had arrived, led by King Nebuchadnezzar, feared across the ancient world. He didn't just invade Jerusalem, he crushed it, he tore through its walls, and then he turned his fury towards Solomon's temple. The house of God, once filled with light, was consumed by flames. And then chains. Thousands of Jews, nobles, priests, scholars, artists, they were taken in captivity, dragged away from their homeland to Babylon. It was the darkest exile in Jewish memory. Then, a spark of light. From the east came Cyrus the Great, the Persian king who changed everything. Unlike conquerors before him, Cyrus set them free. He issued a decree. The Jewish people could return. They could go home, and they could rebuild the temple. It wasn't just political, it was prophetic. Jerusalem, the footsteps of Jesus Christ, every narrow alley, every worn stone path echoes his voice, his prayers, his pain. To Christians, this city isn't just holy. It's sacred ground where heaven touched earth. Through him, Jesus enters Jerusalem, not as a warrior, but as a servant, riding a donkey, welcomed by crowds waving palm branches, shouting, "Hosanna! Save us." This wasn't just a procession. It was prophecy in motion, the beginning of his final journey, a mission nearing its divine climax. Within the towering courts of Solomon's temple, Jesus taught with power and peace. His words challenged the powerful, healed the broken, stirred hearts, and sparked resistance. He spoke not just of law, but of love, not just of rules, but of redemption. Then came the upper room, a simple space on Mount Zion, where Jesus gathered his closest followers for one final meal. He broke bread, and with trembling hands told them, "This is my body, given for you." It wasn't just a supper, it was a farewell, a sacred covenant that lives on in every Christian Eucharist to this day. That night, he walked into the shadows of the Mount of Olives, to the Garden of Gethsemane. There, under ancient olive trees, he prayed, alone, in anguish, fully human, fully divine, wrestling with the weight of what was to come. Then came Golgotha, the hill of skulls. Here, Jesus was crucified, nails, wood, a crown of thorns. But for Christians, it wasn't the end. It was the sacrifice. The road he walked is still here today, the Via Dolorosa, the way of the cross. Step by sacred step, 3 days later, hope returned. The tomb was empty. For Christians, this is the heart of it all. Resurrection, victory over death, proof of divine promise. At the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, believers weep, kneel, and rejoice. This place, they say, is where the story turned from sorrow to salvation. A single moment in history changed the fate of Jerusalem forever, without a single drop of blood spilled. This is the story of how Islam embraced the holy city and brought it into a new golden age. One city stood at the center of wars, miracles, and divine encounters, where empires clashed and a prophet ascended to the heavens. This is Jerusalem, where history and faith collide. But Jerusalem's story isn't finished. Next, we'll pull back the curtain on an unforgettable epic, how conquering Muslims stepped into Jerusalem, and their magnificent mosques rose majestically atop the world's holiest mountain.